This is one of my favourite topics. Favourite because it's probably the one that we have the most control over and the one that's probably the most challenging. In sales, it's been said that 80% of your results are psychological and 20% are the things you actually do. It's the mental game that makes the difference. So in this video, we're going to talk about the ultimate secret in sales, which is confidence. You'll see a lot of material. In fact, I produce a lot of material that talks about the tactical how-tos, managing your contacts, knowing your ideal customer, all that sort of stuff. All that's critically important. Underlying all that, at the end of the day, is how you show up and how you present yourself. You need to be the person that someone's got the confidence in to buy from. Now think about this. Would you rather buy from someone who, is a little timid, sketchy, appears to, be not that confident themselves versus someone who has just that air of confidence, not to the point of being cocky, but, just has that assertiveness that makes you feel like this person knows what they're doing. I feel like if I buy from this person, they're going to have things under control. They're not going to let me down. Of course, there's more to it than just confidence, but confidence is like the foundation, the thing that needs to be in place, that the thing that just covers and surrounds everything else that you do. Now let's take a look at it, because there's a little bit of psychology at play here. Underpinning confidence, and confidence is really how you feel about your abilities in a certain situation. To have a high level of confidence, firstly you need to have a reasonably healthy level of self-esteem. Now self-esteem is simply how you see yourself. If I was to ask you to honestly write down how you see yourself, it would be that definition, right? Whatever you say to yourself when you buy yourself is kind of that essence of self-esteem. Now, what that is if you think about it, it's just what you've come to believe about yourself. And you come to believe what you do about yourself through experiences, through what people say to you, through the way you interpret events. At the end of the day, it's how you've programmed your mind to think about it. Because when we all first get born, we're all capable of believing in ourselves at that point. It's only through our programming from that point onward that determines whether our self-esteem goes up or down. Now, if you happen to be a confident person right now, it may be because your parents did a great job in building that level of self-esteem within you. Or maybe you had some talents or skills as a kid. Maybe you're good at sports or playing musical instruments or theatre, whatever it was that you got recognised for, and people reaffirmed that. Teachers and friends said, hey, you're really good at X, and that sort of built a level of self-confidence. What tends to happen though is, certainly in our society, is everyone's got this little underlying niggling doubt about themselves in some way, shape or form, and we've all got it. Look, it's not a bad thing if you've got that. The question is just how strong is that voice within you? Now, how does confidence play out from self-esteem? Well, as I mentioned, self-esteem is kind of like how you feel about yourself, and confidence is how you feel about yourself in a certain situation. You could take someone who's extremely confident in the area of sales, and then you go put them in a triathlon or a swimming race. And if they don't have the experience, the skills or ability in that arena, they're going to be a little nervous. They might be willing to have a go because they're confident, but they may not be confident about their abilities to do well. And in sales, you need to be confident about your ability to do well. Otherwise, people read off. You give off a vibe that your pheromones are just pouring out this person's not sure of themselves, don't buy from them. You don't want to be putting that out. When you're confident, it comes through in your body language, it comes through in your voice, and quite honestly, you project an energy. It's an energy that people can feel about how you feel about yourself. Now, I mentioned also, up until this point, it's about the experiences that you've had, what people have told you. Really, it's about how you've translated all those and the story you've made up. You see, the interesting truth is that everything you believe about yourself and you believe about the world, in fact, it may not be fact. In fact, probably a very small percentage of it is. Now, this is a pretty deep topic, but the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you to be open to exploring the fact that just because you think a certain way about yourself now does not mean it's true. In fact, you can create what you think about yourself to be whatever you want it to be. Let's take a look at that. How do we actually go about building confidence in a field of sales? Well, the first one, and this is a bit on the self-esteem side, but to be able to reprogram yourself, which is essentially what you're doing. You are the programmer. And the way your mind thinks and runs is based on the program that you've put in it. Most of us have put that program in there by default, by what other people have told us, the way we've just unconsciously translated events. But I want you to know that you can actually program it. You can choose how you translate the stories and what you choose to believe about events and what people say, right? You're in control of that. So the first trick here, and this one, as I mentioned, is a bit on the self-esteem side, how to build self-confidence. Self-confidence is really internal trust. Now, to be good in sales, you need to have trust. You need to have trust from your clients and your prospects. That we call external trust, and that would be otherwise known as credibility. You also need to have internal trust, which is confidence within yourself. So how do you build that? Well, depending on where you're at right now, start by keeping promises to yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, make sure you do it. And if you don't have a great track record of doing that, start very small. Start by saying, you know what, tonight I'm not going to eat any dessert, and just stick to it. And as set yourself up for success here. Don't start with, I'm going to start running 5Ks every morning if you haven't exercised in 3 years. You want to start slow and build up to it, but just give yourself some little successes that you start to believe that you keep your word to yourself. Sometimes we think that doesn't matter. We think, oh, you know what, I said I was going to do that, but no one knows, so it doesn't really matter. It absolutely matters, because you know, whether you consciously recognize it or not, every time you break a promise to yourself, you're just chipping away at your self-esteem, your internal trust. Internal trust needs to be high. You need to believe within yourself that you do the things you say you're going to do. Okay, that's the first one, internal trust. The next one to build confidence is to build your knowledge and skills. Now, obviously you're watching this video because you're learning about sales. And the other resources I've provided with you is about sales, and there's lots out there reading books on sales. We're talking about sales, but this applies to any area of your life. Building your knowledge and your skills. So, for sales, for an example, speaking, communicating with people is vitally important. That is a skill. If your ability to communicate, you don't feel very good about it, or you don't do very well at it, that would be something to work on. Going to Toastmasters would be a great thing to do. I did Toastmasters for 3 years, and it made a world of difference. You get to stand up and you speak on the spot, you do prepared presentations, people give you feedback. It's a great place to build your skills and confidence in speaking. But, there's in sales, there's skills around questioning, there's skills around listening, there's skills around being creative. All these things are things you can build within yourself, and the better you get at them, the more confidence you have. All right, now number 3, the way to have more confidence is through preparation. So this is particularly, this could be situation specific. If you're going out to meet a new customer or a new prospect, be prepared, do your research. The more you know about them, the more you feel prepared for that meeting, the higher your confidence is going to be. Number 4, now this one's a little more out there, but I said before that your self-esteem, or how you feel about yourself, is simply your definition of yourself. It's what you say to yourself when you buy yourself. So I'm going to call that your identity. Your identity is how you see yourself. So right now, if you were to write that identity down, it is what it is. But that's not how it has to be forever. You can in fact define how you want your identity to be, and it's something I would highly encourage you to do. Write down who you want to be. How do you want to think about yourself? If you write that down in detail, and then you start looking at some of those characteristics, abilities, some of the words you're using in that's some material you can build on, but you need to know what you want it to be to start with. So number 4 is define your identity. Now number 5, which builds straight onto, once you've defined your identity, how do you build on that? Well, it's through self-talk. Now, what is self-talk? Self-talk is what you say to yourself when you buy yourself, or when you're in a conversation. It's the internal voice, the internal talking that goes on that doesn't go out there, it just stays in here. So in any situation or event, quite often you're talking about you. You're having a little conversation with yourself. Say you do something, you make a mistake. What's that conversation that goes on when that happens? Do you start beating yourself up, or do you sort of laugh and go, isn't that interesting? Right, well, when you know your identity, a form of self-talk can be through affirmation. And affirmation is, repeating to yourself what those characteristics or abilities are that you want to develop. Now, there's a little trick to affirmations. If you, let's say that you're a new rookie salesperson and you want to be the top dog, you want to be, billing $5 million a year in sales. If you start saying to yourself, I bill $5 million a year in sales, and you keep saying that over and over, your internal voice is going to call bullshit on that. It's going to say, no, you don't. So you've got to put it in a language that is true for you. So it might be, I'm on my way to becoming a $5 million salesperson, right? That now is a language that can be believable. If you're saying any kind of affirmation and you don't believe it, then it's worthless. So self-talk, I'm going to say affirmation. Now I believe, and the reason I believe this is because it's worked for me, is that I believe in having a list of, say, 3 to 10 affirmations that you can say in a way that starts to build you up and starts to make you feel really good about yourself. It can sound hokey if you've never done this before. It can sound like oh my God, really? But I can tell you, when you're in the moment, it works. If you look at an athlete, you look at an elite level athlete in any arena, track, tennis, basketball, whatever, I can guarantee you the people who are at the top of their game, they're not doing negative self-talk when they're going out on the field. They're saying things to themselves to put them in that state of mind to make themselves deepen the belief in their abilities. Because they know when they get out there, if they're in that right mental state, the physical state will just carry on. They'll just be able to do. And you want to be doing the same thing. You want to be saying your affirmations to yourself whenever it's relevant. When you first start in the morning, when you're about to go on a sales call, when you're feeling that confidence dip a little bit, crack into a couple of affirmations. Absolutely. The other aspect of self-talk is you want to start to become aware of what that self-talk is that's going on inside your head, and start to be aware that you can reprogram that, because that self-talk is the translation or the creation of the story that you're now using to program your brain. So before I said you can become the programmer, and that's what you want to do. With any of your self-talk, be very aware of what's going on inside your mind, because every little bit of self-talk is what's creating that story and creating the program. Okay, number 6 is looking at a little more tactical in the moment, but reflecting on successes and progress. Okay, sometimes we have a tendency to focus on the negative, on the things that went wrong. This went wrong, I did that wrong, I've got to do that better next time. And an element of that can be helpful to reflect and learn. What is also important is to make sure we reflect on what went well, what we excelled at, and the progress we've made. So, for instance, let's say you're moving forward, you're a rookie, you're moving forward, but you're still making quite a few mistakes. You look at where you've come in the last 3 months. You know what, I'm still making mistakes, but I was making a hell of a lot more 3 months ago. And look at all these things I'm now doing well. If you're a veteran, you're already doing well, but you're going through a rough patch, instead of focusing on the rough patch, look at where you've come in the last 10 years of your sales career and say, you know what, when I started out, I was a rookie who knew nothing. Now look at me, Okay, I'm going through a rough patch, but it's just a phase. I'll get through it. Again, it's the self-talk, right? How you translate the events that are going on around you. The last one I'll leave you with, and this is one that I didn't believe in for a long time, but now I am a big advocate for, is meditation. I used to think meditation was for the incense-loving, hippies that want to sit there and chant their way to whatever it was. I didn't really understand it, but I've come to understand it as an extremely powerful way of getting in touch with the energy that's within you that can, really manifest into being successful in sales. What it also does is it helps to calm down your mind and start to give you mental clarity that can help you with some of these other strategies that I've talked about. The person who is a little scattered, who is, always thinking about a million things, is the person whose confidence is never really going to reach a 10 out of 10. The person who can be calm, intentional, and confident is the one that's going to win. And meditation can be a great tool to get there. If you're looking for some more resources on meditation, feel free to reach out to me. It's something that took me a while to get into, but I'm a big advocate of. So there you have it. 7 points around creating confidence in sales. Take a look at the thinking questions below. Have fun with it.